You know, quarantine got me bored. A lot. And two of the ways I found to pass the time were one, music, and two, sitcoms. Sitcoms are generally not great. They're mostly passable shows, but with enough fun and energy to get through the day. And that's something that's always been weird to me. Why is the sitcom genre so popular? What are its strengths? What are its shortcomings? What makes us sit through hours and hours of episodic comedy like that? Has the genre died, or is it still going? Fortunately, I have watched a shit ton of sitcoms, so I feel qualified to give you an analysis of that genre. Are you ready? Let's go. What is a sitcom? Sitcom is derived from situational comedy. So basically, it's a short 20 minutes per episode comedy series with few sets. That's already a reason why the genre is everywhere. It's cheap to produce. There's a relatively small amount of sets, and generally, the actors tend to be fairly unknown. The first sitcom was I Love Lucy back in 1951. The premise was to pick a fairly known star at the time, Lucille Ball, and create a comedy series of weird events that would happen in her day-to-day life. The show was fairly successful, and it spawned a whole lot of other shows after that. But to be more in touch with our generation, I feel like it would be better for us to put the base of our analysis on a more recent sitcom. Let's go almost 40 years after I Love Lucy to Seinfeld. Seinfeld was extremely successful, and I think for one main reason. George explains it better than I do.
What's the show about? It's about nothing.
The show is about nothing. It had almost no continuity, meaning that people could just play Seinfeld whenever they wanted, and they'd be able to follow it. But I don't think Seinfeld is a true patient zero for when the sitcom genre exploded. To do that, we need to get to Friends. Take everything I said about Seinfeld and multiply it by 10, and you get NBC's phenomenon Friends. This show is still to this day immensely successful, and while I liked it at first, the show soured and soured over the years for me, for reasons that are actually the reasons why Friends was so popular. First, whereas Seinfeld was from the point of view of a comedian, the type of humor you get resembles what you hear while watching stand-up, whereas Friends is clearly made for TV. Friends' humor is less driven by observation in awkward situations, but rather by caricature. The typical Friends joke would be, uh-oh, sad guy had something sad happen to him, so weird girl will say something weird to it. Then sarcastic character will say a sarcastic comment about what the weird girl said, and dumb guy won't get the joke. Second, because this type of show with poor continuity and low stakes kinda become less interesting in the streaming binge-watching scene of today. Whereas in the 90s, you get your weekly entertainment, these days where you watch whole seasons in a day, this type of entertainment can be a little jarring. And third, because since the show had 6 main characters, and 4 of them were clearly not meant to be main characters, the pacing is a little off. Sometimes they put huge chunks of time into a storyline that really isn't worth it. But these 3 criticisms of mine were actually the strength of the show. The type of humor led to it being very easy to pick up. In the 90s, this type of sitcom with no continuity would prove to be extremely successful, and the pacing of focusing on less interesting characters was in line with the premise. Entertainment that you don't need to be completely invested into. There are a lot of things to criticize Friends about, but it made the template into what normal sitcoms would be like. While some followed it almost completely, the most interesting sitcoms were the ones that pushed the template forward and changed them. Most notably, How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother was also very successful, but for different reasons. I think there are 3 big reasons why I prefer it to Friends. First, the change of the laugh track. Whereas Friends was recorded in front of a live audience, so there are laugh tracks, the creators of How I Met Your Mother weren't sure if they wanted to put one in their show. So what they did is that they filmed the show and then showed the episodes to an audience and recorded the laugh tracks and added it to each episode. So it gave How I Met Your Mother a lot more rhythm, since the actors didn't have to pause in between each sentence to let the audience laugh. Second, because the characters that served less as main characters in Friends were relegated to a single one. They took Weird Girl, Dumb Guy, and Sarcastic Guy and made him into Barney. The show then had much more focus and much better pacing, since it clearly had protagonistic characters and secondary characters. But the third and main reasons as to why How I Met Your Mother is a much better show in my opinion is because the show did more than comedy. It absolutely shined in its moments of drama, much better than any sitcoms ever had. And the mastery of writing and of these characters led to some truly incredible moments of TV. I think How I Met Your Mother would be the end of the trope friends sitting at a restaurant or a coffee place or a bar. The trend that would follow would be the mockumentary. With shows like The Office, Parks and Recreation, or Arrested Development, I think mockumentaries were a well-hidden lie, because it seems like the reason why it was adopted was to replace the friends at a bar setup with something else, but actually, it didn't change at all. The setups, the caricatures are the exact same. Rivalries, long-awaited shipped couples, socially awkward main characters, weird people, sarcasm, these tropes are the exact same, if not for a different frame. To me, the mockumentary was just an evolution in the wrong direction of the laugh track. Because people criticize the laugh track for pointing to people when to laugh, but actually, it didn't evolve much in mockumentaries either. The camera's pointing to the thing you're supposed to laugh at, the characters explaining jokes in interviews. Whereas How I Met Your Mother felt like an evolution of the genre, with the mockumentaries, it kinda went back to its roots of low stakes, poor investment, and shows that you don't really have to be involved in to appreciate. But then again, these shows were also massively successful. It made me realize that sitcoms are just a high concept. People meet to discuss a new sitcom and write the exact same jokes, just with a different concept. And you can apply that to any demographic. Kids, teens, adults, name it. But I feel like the mockumentaries were even worse than the original Friends at a Bar setups, because at least in Seinfeld and Friends and How I Met Your Mother, I like the characters. But it feels like on every mockumentary series, they just wanted to make everyone as unlikable as possible. The mockumentaries just felt like a step down to the evolution of sitcoms, and the sitcoms that dared to push elements of their comedy aspects, for example Community, were not as popular as they could have been and had a very troubled production. And as we jumped into the 2010s, the sitcoms that came after that didn't do much either. It seems that shows like New Girl, Modern Family, or Brooklyn Nine-Nine were just okay. I've been saying the word evolution a lot, but it's not a very big one or anything. Well, I can say that some of these shows are better than the others. They kinda go from 4 to 6 out of 10s really. So, were sitcoms ever good? While they're clearly not the creme de la creme of TV, they were fun enough to be entertaining and to be successful, but with the popularization of streaming, the old ways of just popping any episode of any sitcom just to be entertained for 20 minutes doesn't work anymore. So is the sitcom genre dead? Pretty much, I think. What I've learned from watching all these shows is that the sitcom genre is very fundamentally flawed. The best shows to come out of the sitcom genre were the one who moved past the shortcomings of the genre. The situational aspect of sitcoms was destroyed by Community, which dared to push the boundaries of what you could do with extremely creative and innovative episodes, notably with the use of animation. And while the limiting comedy aspects of sitcoms, which makes them have poor continuity, low stakes, and not much attachment, was not apparent in shows like How I Met Your Mother, which shined in its serious moments and encouraged longtime viewers with running jokes. So, the sitcom genre is not dead, not in the sense that there are no sitcoms anymore. There still are some shows that are still running, and I don't know for how long people will continue to follow them, and how much of them will continue to be made. But on a conceptual level, sitcoms have exploited the little potential they ever had, that's for sure. But that's a good thing, because the failed structure of the sitcoms led to the late 2010s, which gave us the greatest comedy shows of all time. Seriously, we got BoJack Horseman in 2014, Master of None in 2015, and Fleabag in Atlanta in 2016. These 4 shows pushed comedy forward these last years. Whether it be Atlanta's uncomfortable humor to push great commentary in society, Fleabag with how it hides drama in its humor, or Master of None who did both. BoJack Horseman showed the contradiction of the true darkness of the sitcom by being about an ex-sitcom star facing real-life consequences and how his dark, deranged, sad life is a direct contrast to who he portrayed in the sitcom. Sitcoms were an interesting experiment, to say the least, and while it wasn't really great, its failure as a comedy structure has led us to the greatest comedy shows of all time. And we have to be thankful for that, right? Now is the time you've all been waiting for, me rating every sitcom I have ever seen. That's what you want, right? Okay. Disclaimer, some of these shows I haven't seen all of, but I judge I have seen enough of them to rate them that way. Okay, let's go. Full House, 3 out of 10. It has aged extremely poorly. The acting is not spectacular, the writing is mediocre at best. The only thing saving it is Stephanie, which is almost always great. Seinfeld, 6 out of 10. Not extraordinary or transcendent, but when it's good, it's good. Some jokes land, some jokes don't. It's okay. Friends, 5 out of 10. My main problem with it is that Ross and Rachel are absolutely terrible characters. I like the other 4, but as it keeps going, it clearly gets worse and worse. After season 4, it really goes downhill, and the last seasons are absolutely insufferable. But season 3's the one where no one's ready is really an example of amazing comedy. That's 70 shows, 6 out of 10. It's amazing if you're a teenager, but the show doesn't manage to reach any other demographic. The storyline with the parents are especially awful. How I Met Your Mother, 8 out of 10. When it's not great, it can be boring, but it absolutely shines in certain episodes. Season 1's Drumroll Please, Season 6's Bad News, and especially Season 8's Time Travelers are examples of perfect TV. Season 9 is one of the best seasons of TV ever, and I really like the ending, weirdly enough. The Office, 2 out of 10. Recycled jokes, tropes, and caricatures from the other sitcoms. The camera work is just extremely annoying. Every character is unlikable. It's just straight up bad. iCarly, 3 out of 10. It has aged incredibly poorly. It's a kids show that doesn't have the decency to appeal to any other demographic. Miranda Cosgrove is not great, although the 4 others seem to have a really good time. Its humor is very much for kids and essentially boils down to, hey kids, in this episode, let's see how many screwdrivers I can eat. Even as a kid's entertainment, I don't think this is great. Parks and Recreation, 3 out of 10. It's kind of the same thing as The Office, except with some good characters. But god, what an awful lead. Even in this season where she's supposedly a good character, I still hate her. Community, 8 out of 10. Seasons 2 and 3 are really amazing, and Season 5 has its moments, but the other episodes and seasons go from passable to awful. Chaotic production led to greatness and not so greatness in Community's case. Modern Family, 6 out of 10. I like the camera work. It makes it so the mockumentary genre is a little more interesting. I'd get rid of the interviews though. These completely add nothing to the show whatsoever. It's basically Full House but good. Victorious, 5 out of 10. This one aged much better than iCarly. The actors have a lot of fun doing this, and you can feel it, but the episodes go from okay to bad. There's an episode where they just eat ice cream for 20 minutes, just so they can find letters to win a contest so that they can go to a Kesha concert. And they find the letters, they go to the Kesha concert. That's it. I wish they'd give more storylines to Andre and Beck, especially Beck, who ends up just being the hot guy of the school. I also find it extremely funny that the lead of a show about singing ended up not having a career in music, whereas the little unimportant side characters is played by Ariana fucking Grande. New Girl, 4 out of 10. It's the kind of show that does the bare minimum on every level, which makes it kind of boring. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 3 out of 10. I don't get the hype. The jokes aren't great, you're again watching caricatures, and even the cop element is never engaging or interesting. BoJack Horseman, 10 out of 10. Of course it's a 10. Image is wonderfully the problem with sitcoms and how they're an unrealistic portrayal of real life. The commentary it has on a lot of different things is quite stellar, with one of the best cast ever. It feels weird to call this a sitcom when only the first season is comedy driven, whereas the rest of the show is completely a drama. It's honestly a God-given gift that we have this show. People are not exaggerating when they say it's one of the best TV shows of all time. Master of None, 10 out of 10. It does both the things that Fleabag and Atlanta do in just one show. The writing is on another level. The saddest thing about it is that Aziz Ansari, the star of the show, was cancelled for sexual misconduct allegation. This is especially weird since there is a Master of None episode where they explicitly talk about that. And his commentary on it in the episode seems very contradictory to what allegedly happened in real life. The show hits by its drama and its commentary on life in modern society, and it's quite amazing. The direction is amazing, the cinematography is quite impressive for a kinda low budget Netflix show. I can't recommend it enough, it's amazing. Apparently there's gonna be a third season, if so, I couldn't be more excited. Fuller House, 1 out of 10. This is a terrible remake. It doesn't have anything interesting about it. It's extremely weird that they still filmed this with a live audience in 2020. It's cringe, the actors are bad, it's awful, it's terrible. I hate it. Please get it off my screen. Thank you. The Good Place, 6 out of 10. It's great at trying to say something about the sitcom trope, unlikable characters who hate each other, and I like the commentary it has on that, but otherwise, it's just a little cringe. Fleabag, 9 out of 10. Amazing show, incredible use of fourth wall breaking, much better than what mockumentaries or like Deadpool ever did. The humor on that show perfectly hides its drama, and the tension it gives it an edge over any sitcom ever. Atlanta, 9 out of 10. Its cringe, uncomfortable humor goes extremely well with the message this show wants to vehiculate. It's a great commentary on society with some incredible jokes. Darius has such incredible one-liners, it's mind-blowing. And that's all of them. I hope you all have gotten a new perspective on the sitcom genre and why I think we need to move on. If you like this, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you next video. See ya!